What if the breakfast you were told was healthy is the very meal pushing your blood sugar sharply upward before 9 o'clock? For many adults over 60, the problem is not a lack of discipline. It is that certain healthy foods arrive in the bloodstream much faster than the body can manage. A bowl of instant oatmeal with honey, a banana orange juice and toast may look wholesome, yet together, they can send a large wave of glucose into the blood. If insulin is no longer working efficiently, that glucose stays elevated longer, leaving you tired, hungry, foggy, or reaching for another snack. But here's the hopeful part. Lowering the rise after a meal does not always require giving up every carbohydrate, skipping breakfast, or living on tiny portions. Often the first improvement comes from changing what enters the meal, how much you eat, and the order in which you eat it. Fiber can slow digestion. Protein can help you stay satisfied. Healthy fats can soften the speed of absorption, and your muscles can pull glucose from the bloodstream when you move after eating. In this video, you will learn which everyday foods can help flatten that dangerous-looking spike, how to combine them into a realistic plate, and why one simple habit after dinner may matter more than an expensive supplement. You will also hear an important safety warning, because food can support blood sugar control, but it cannot safely replace prescribed treatment. The goal is not to chase a miracle number in a single afternoon. The goal is to create a steadier curve meal after meal, so your body faces less metabolic stress and you regain confidence around food. By the end, you will know how to build a breakfast lunch or dinner that works with your aging metabolism instead of fighting against it. And the first food on the list may surprise you, because it is a carbohydrate that often produces a gentler response than many foods marketed as sugar-free. Before you change anything, remember this food is information, and the right message can change meals. To understand why certain foods help you, first need to understand what is happening beneath the surface. Blood sugar does not rise simply because you ate something sweet. It rises whenever your digestive system breaks carbohydrates into glucose, the fuel your cells use for energy. That glucose enters the bloodstream, and your pancreas releases insulin to help move it into muscle, liver, and fat cells. Think of insulin as a key and each cell as a locked room. In a healthy body, insulin fits into the lock, the door opens, and glucose moves inside to be used or stored. But after years of repeated blood sugar surges, inactivity, excess abdominal fat, poor sleep, chronic stress, and highly processed meals, those locks can become less responsive. The key is still there, but the door no longer opens easily. This is insulin resistance. When the cells stop responding, normally the pancreas tries to solve the problem by producing more insulin. For a while, this extra effort may keep blood sugar within the normal range. That is why insulin resistance can develop silently for years. Your fasting glucose may appear acceptable, while your insulin levels are already working overtime behind the scenes. Eventually, the pancreas may struggle to keep up. Glucose remains in the bloodstream longer, especially after meals. The higher and more frequent these surges become, the more pressure they place on blood vessels, nerves, kidneys, eyes, and the heart. This does not mean that one piece of bread causes permanent damage. The concern is the pattern repeated day after day, year after year. Aging can make this problem more noticeable. After 60, many people gradually lose muscle tissue, especially if they are not doing regular strength or resistance exercises. Muscle is one of the body's largest storage sites for glucose. When muscle mass decreases, there are fewer places for that glucose to go. At the same time, reduced activity means those remaining muscles demand less fuel. Visceral fat also plays an important role. This is the fat stored deep inside the abdomen around the internal organs. Unlike the softer fat beneath the skin, visceral fat is metabolically active. It can release inflammatory signals that interfere with insulin communication. In simple terms, inflammation creates static in the conversation between insulin and the cell. The liver can add to the problem. One of its jobs is to release glucose between meals and during the night so the brain and other organs have a steady energy supply. But with insulin resistance, the liver may continue releasing glucose, even when plenty is already circulating. This helps explain why someone can wake up with elevated blood sugar, despite eating nothing during the night. Poor sleep can intensify the cycle. A restless night affects hormones that regulate appetite, stress, and insulin sensitivity. The next day you may feel hungrier, crave faster carbohydrates, and move less because of fatigue. Then blood sugar rises more easily. Sleep may worsen again and the cycle continues. This is why the solution cannot be reduced to one magical ingredient. Cinnamon cannot repair years of insulin resistance overnight. Vinegar cannot cancel an oversized plate of refined carbohydrates. And a food labeled sugar-free can still contain starches that become glucose during digestion. The good news is that the body remains responsive to better signals. Meals rich in fiber take longer to break down. Protein and healthy fats slow the movement of food through the stomach and reduce the speed at which glucose reaches the bloodstream. Minimally processed carbohydrates often retain more of their natural structure, forcing the digestive system to work more slowly. Muscle contraction offers another powerful advantage. When you walk after a meal, your working muscles begin pulling glucose from the blood to create energy. This process does not depend entirely on insulin. That means even when the insulin key is struggling, movement can help open another pathway into the cell. Picture your bloodstream as a busy highway after a meal. Refined carbohydrates send too many cars onto the road at once. Fiber spaces them apart. Protein and healthy fat slow the entrance ramp. Insulin directs traffic toward the exits. And moving muscles create additional places for those cars to leave the highway. The goal is not to remove every car. Glucose is not a poison. Your body needs it. The goal is to prevent a traffic jam. Once you understand that food choices become less frightening and far more practical, you are not trying to starve the body of energy. You are helping that energy arrive at a speed your cells can actually handle. One of the most dangerous things about rising blood sugar is that the early signals often feel ordinary. You may blame them on age, stress, poor sleep, or simply having a busy day. But when several of these signs appear together, especially after meals, your body may be telling you that glucose is not moving efficiently from your bloodstream into your cells. The first signal is unusual sleepiness after eating. A heavy meal can make anyone feel relaxed, but if you regularly become exhausted, foggy, or unable to concentrate within an hour or two of breakfast or lunch, pay attention. A rapid rise in blood sugar may be followed by a sharp shift in insulin, leaving you feeling drained, even though you have just eaten. Persistent hunger is another overlooked warning. You may finish a full meal and still want something sweet shortly afterward. This can happen when plenty of glucose is circulating in the blood, but the cells are not using it effectively. The brain interprets that energy problem as hunger, creating the strange experience of feeling underfed, while the bloodstream contains more fuel than the body can comfortably manage. Increased thirst and more frequent urination can also appear when blood sugar remains elevated. The kidneys try to remove some of the excess glucose through urine, pulling additional water with it. This can leave the mouth dry and increase the need to drink, particularly during the evening or overnight. Other possible signals include blurred vision, tingling in the feet, slow healing cuts, recurring infections, or unexplained changes in weight. These symptoms can have many causes, so they should never be used to diagnose yourself. But they are reasons to speak with a qualified healthcare professional and request appropriate tests rather than assuming they are an unavoidable part of aging. Now consider the eating mistakes that can quietly create these glucose swings. The first is drinking carbohydrates. Orange juice, sweetened coffee, sports drinks, and bottled smoothies can deliver a large amount of sugar with very little chewing and limited fiber. Whole fruit usually enters the bloodstream more slowly because its natural structure remains intact. A glass of juice can contain the sugar from several pieces of fruit, consumed in less than a minute. The second mistake is eating a carbohydrate by itself. A bowl of instant oatmeal may sound heart-healthy, but adding brown sugar, honey raisins, and a banana can turn it into a concentrated carbohydrate meal. Without enough protein, fat, or fiber, digestion may happen quickly. A better approach is to choose less processed oats, control the portion, and pair them with plain Greek yogurt, nuts, chia seeds, or eggs. Breakfast cereals create a similar problem. Packages may advertise whole grains, vitamins, or low fat, while the product is still finely processed and quickly digested. The words natural, multigrain, and made with whole grains do not automatically mean a food will produce a gentle glucose response. Another common mistake is trusting the phrase sugar-free. A food may contain no added table sugar, but still be made with refined flour, starches, or other carbohydrates that become glucose. Crackers, bread chips, and snack bars do not need to taste sweet to raise blood sugar. Portion size matters as much as food choice. Brown rice, sweet potatoes, whole grain bread, and fruit can fit into a balanced diet, but a very large serving can still deliver more carbohydrate than the body can handle at one time. Healthy does not mean unlimited. Skipping meals can also backfire. Some people avoid breakfast or lunch to compensate for a high glucose reading, then become extremely hungry and eat a much larger dinner. That large evening meal may cause a bigger spike, especially when followed by hours of sitting. Consistency is often safer and more sustainable than swinging between restriction and overeating. Finally, many people eat too quickly. When a meal disappears in 10 minutes, the body has little time to register fullness. Slowing down, chewing thoroughly, and pausing between bites can reduce the chance of eating beyond what you need. The most important lesson is not to fear food. It is to notice patterns. Pay attention to how you feel before and after meals. Review glucose readings with your healthcare team when appropriate, and look beyond marketing claims. Your body often whispers before it shouts. Recognizing those quiet signals can help you make changes while the problem is still more manageable. Now we arrive at the foods that can help slow the rise of glucose after a meal. None of them works like an emergency drug, and none should be presented as a cure. Their strength comes from what they add to the plate: fiber, protein, healthy fat, minerals, and natural structure. Together, these features can make digestion slower and help the body handle carbohydrates more steadily. Start with lentils and beans. These are among the most useful carbohydrate choices for people concerned about blood sugar, because they contain both fiber and plant protein. Unlike white bread crackers or sweetened cereal, lentils are not rapidly broken down into glucose. Their fiber forms a physical barrier that slows digestion while the resistant starch reaches the large intestine, where beneficial bacteria can ferment it. This fermentation produces short-chain fatty acids that support the gut and may influence glucose metabolism. Lentils can also create what researchers call the second meal effect. This means that eating them at one meal may improve the body's glucose response at the following meal. A practical serving is about 1/2 cup of cooked lentils or beans, added to soup, salad, or a mixed plate. Next are non-starchy vegetables: broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, green beans, zucchini, spinach, peppers, mushrooms, and leafy greens provide volume without delivering a large amount of carbohydrate. Their water and fiber help fill the stomach, slow the meal, and reduce the space available for refined foods. Aim to make these vegetables the largest part of the plate. Chia seeds and ground flaxseed are useful because they absorb liquid and form a gel-like texture. This can slow the movement of food through the digestive system. They also provide plant-based omega-3 fats and additional fiber. 1 or 2 tablespoons can be mixed into plain yogurt, oatmeal, or water. Increase fiber gradually and drink enough fluid, especially if constipation is already a concern. Nuts offer another protective combination of fiber, protein, and unsaturated fat. Walnuts, almonds, pistachios, and pecans can make a carbohydrate-containing meal more satisfying and may reduce the urge to snack soon afterward. But portions matter. A small handful is usually enough. Eating directly from a large bag can turn a helpful food into an unexpectedly high-calorie habit. Plain Greek yogurt can be an excellent breakfast or snack because it is high in protein and usually lower in carbohydrate than sweetened yogurt. The important word is plain. Many flavored varieties contain added sugar, fruit syrups, or granola that can change the meal completely. Add berries, cinnamon, chia seeds, or a few nuts instead. Eggs are another practical protein choice. They contain almost no carbohydrate and can help replace breakfast built around toast. Pastries or sweetened cereal. Pair eggs with vegetables, avocado, or a modest serving of beans rather than treating them as permission to add unlimited bacon, sausage, and refined bread. Avocado provides fiber and monounsaturated fat, both of which can slow digestion and increase satisfaction. 1/2 of a medium avocado is enough for most meals. Add it to a salad. Serve it beside eggs or mash a small amount onto whole grain toast with a source of protein. Berries are often a better fruit option than juice or dried fruit because they contain water, fiber, and beneficial plant compounds. Strawberries, Blueberries, raspberries, and blackberries can satisfy the desire for sweetness while delivering less concentrated sugar than many processed desserts. Portion them rather than eating from an oversized container and combine them with yogurt or nuts. Fatty fish, such as salmon, sardines, trout, and mackerel, does not lower glucose instantly, but it supports a more complete metabolic strategy. Its protein helps with fullness, while omega-3 fats support cardiovascular health. This matters because people with diabetes face a higher risk of heart and blood vessel disease. 2 fish meals per week can be a realistic goal for many adults. Minimally processed whole grains may also fit, but they require careful portions. Steel-cut oats, barley, and intact grains usually digest more slowly than white bread. Instant cereal or finely milled flour. The less a grain has been crushed and processed, the more work the digestive system must do before glucose is released. Optional ingredients such as cinnamon or diluted apple cider vinegar may produce modest effects for some people, but they should remain secondary. Vinegar can irritate the stomach-damaged tooth enamel and interact with certain medicines. Cinnamon is not a substitute for balanced meals, and large amounts may be unsafe, especially for people with liver problems. The most effective plate is not built around one miracle food. It is built around combination. Fill half the plate with non-starchy vegetables, add a palm-sized portion of protein. Include a modest serving of beans, lentils, or another quality carbohydrate, and finish with a small amount of healthy fat. That meal sends glucose into the bloodstream more slowly and gives your body a better chance to keep the curve steady. Food choice matters, but the way you build and finish a meal can be just as important. 2 people can eat the same foods and experience different glucose responses because of portion size. Eating order, meal speed, muscle mass, medications, sleep, and physical activity. That is why the next strategy is not about finding another special ingredient. It is about helping your body process the meal you already planned. Begin with non-starchy vegetables whenever possible. A salad, steamed broccoli, green beans, cabbage, mushrooms, or sliced peppers can create a foundation of water and fiber before the more concentrated carbohydrate reaches your digestive system. You do not need an enormous bowl. Even a modest vegetable starter can slow the pace of eating and reduce the likelihood that bread, rice, or potatoes become the largest part of the meal. Next, eat some of the protein. This could be fish, chicken, eggs, plain Greek yogurt, tofu, cottage cheese, or beans. Protein takes longer to digest than refined carbohydrate and supports fullness. A small amount of healthy fat from avocado, olive oil, nuts, or seeds can add another braking effect. Then eat the carbohydrate portion rather than beginning with it on an empty stomach. This sequence is not magic, and you do not need to become anxious when foods are mixed together. A lentil soup, vegetable omelet, or balanced casserole cannot be separated into perfect layers. The larger principle is to avoid making refined starch the first and largest thing your body receives. Build the meal around vegetables and protein, then include a controlled carbohydrate portion. Use a simple plate image when measuring food feels exhausting. Fill approximately half the plate with non-starchy vegetables. Reserve about 1/4 for protein and 1/4 for beans, lentils, intact grains, or another carbohydrate. This is more practical than counting every gram and easier to repeat when eating with family. The size of the plate matters. Modern dinner plates can quietly encourage oversized servings. Using a slightly smaller plate may help without creating the emotional feeling of restriction. Serve the food, once place leftovers away from the table, and wait several minutes before deciding whether you need more. Fullness signals do not always arrive immediately, especially when eating quickly. Chewing slowly is not old-fashioned advice. It creates time for the digestive system and brain to communicate. Put the fork down occasionally. Take a sip of water. Notice when hunger begins to soften. A meal that lasts 20 minutes often feels more satisfying than the same food swallowed in 8. Then comes one of the most powerful and overlooked habits: move after eating. Your muscles are not only responsible for strength and balance, they are also major consumers of glucose. When a muscle contracts, it can increase the movement of glucose transporters toward the cell surface, helping pull glucose from the bloodstream for energy. You do not need a gym membership or an exhausting workout. A gentle 10 to 15-minute walk after a meal can be useful, particularly after the meal that usually produces your highest reading. Walk through the neighborhood, inside a shopping center, along a hallway, or around the kitchen while cleaning up. The goal is consistent movement, not speed. For people with limited mobility, seated movement still has value. Sit upright in a stable chair and alternate lifting the feet. Extend one knee, lower it slowly, and repeat on the other side. Gently march while seated or perform controlled heel and toe raises while holding a secure surface. Stop if you feel pain, dizziness, chest pressure, or unusual shortness of breath. Light resistance exercise is another important tool because preserving muscle gives glucose more storage space. Wall push-ups, chair stands, resistance bands, and light weights can help maintain strength when performed safely. Adults with balance difficulties, heart conditions, severe arthritis, neuropathy, or recent surgery should discuss an appropriate plan with a healthcare professional or physical therapist. Timing matters more than intensity. Sitting for several hours after a large meal leaves the muscles relatively inactive while glucose is entering the blood. Breaking that sitting period with a few minutes of movement can be more realistic than promising yourself one long workout later in the week. Sleep and stress also affect the result. A balanced dinner cannot completely overcome repeated nights of poor sleep. Aim for a consistent sleep schedule. Reduce late-night grazing and create a calming routine before bed. When stress rises, slow breathing, gentle stretching, conversation music, or time outdoors may reduce the urge to reach for quick comfort foods. Choose one change rather than attempting everything tomorrow. Begin meals with vegetables. Reduce the starch portion. Walk for 10 minutes after dinner. Add 2 brief strength sessions each week. Small actions repeated consistently can reshape the daily glucose pattern more effectively than a perfect plan followed for only 3 days. At this point, it is tempting to believe that the right foods can replace everything else. That idea is comforting, but it can also be dangerous. Food is a powerful part of diabetes care, yet no lentil seed, spice, or vinegar can safely replace medical testing, prescribed medication, or guidance from a qualified healthcare professional. Be especially careful with claims that one ingredient will lower blood sugar immediately. A dramatic drop is not always a victory. For someone taking insulin or a medicine that increases insulin release, a sudden reduction can become hypoglycemia. Low blood sugar can cause shaking, sweating, weakness, dizziness, a racing heartbeat, blurred vision, confusion, irritability, or unusual sleepiness. In severe cases, a person may have a seizure, lose consciousness, or become unable to treat the problem alone. For many adults with diabetes, a reading below 70 milligrams per deciliter is considered low. However, personal targets can differ. Learn the plan given to you by your diabetes care team. Keep an appropriate fast-acting glucose source available, and make sure someone close to you knows how to respond during an emergency. Never reduce insulin or stop a prescription because a video supplement advertisement or glucose reading appears promising. Apple cider vinegar is a good example of how a modest idea becomes exaggerated online. Some studies suggest that vinegar taken with a meal may slightly reduce the glucose response in certain people, but it does not neutralize sugar, repair the pancreas, or make an unbalanced meal harmless. Undiluted vinegar can damage tooth enamel and irritate the throat or stomach. It may be unsuitable for people with reflux, delayed stomach emptying, low potassium, or certain medication regimens. Cinnamon is also frequently promoted as natural insulin. It is a flavorful spice, not a substitute for treatment. Research results are mixed, products vary, and consuming large amounts can create problems. Cassia cinnamon may contain considerable coumarin, a compound that can affect the liver when repeatedly consumed in excessive quantities. Using a small culinary amount is very different from swallowing concentrated capsules every day. The same caution applies to fenugreek, bitter melon, berberine, gymnema, and other products marketed for glucose control. Natural does not mean harmless. Supplements can produce side effects, interact with medicines, alter laboratory results, and vary widely in strength or purity. They may also lower glucose unpredictably when combined with insulin or other treatments. Always show the exact product and dose to your physician or pharmacist before using it. Extreme carbohydrate restriction deserves similar skepticism. Some people improve their readings when they reduce refined carbohydrates, but eliminating nearly every carbohydrate is not automatically safe or necessary. Older adults need enough energy, protein, fiber, vitamins, and minerals to preserve strength. A rigid diet may worsen constipation, reduce food enjoyment promote unintended weight loss, or make it difficult to eat with family. Kidney health changes the equation further. People with chronic kidney disease may need individualized guidance regarding protein, potassium, phosphorus, sodium, and fluid. Foods celebrated as universally healthy, including nuts, seeds, avocados, beans, and certain dairy products, may require portion adjustments depending on kidney function and laboratory results. This is why a personalized eating plan is safer than copying a stranger's daily menu. Home glucose monitoring can turn general advice into useful personal information. When your clinician recommends it, record what you ate, the portion, your activity, medication timing, and glucose readings. Look for repeated patterns rather than reacting emotionally to one number. A continuous glucose monitor can reveal trends, but sensors also have limitations, and unexpected results may need confirmation. Seek urgent medical guidance when blood sugar remains extremely high, when vomiting or dehydration develops, when ketones are present, or when confusion, fainting, chest pain, or breathing difficulty occurs. These are not situations to treat with cinnamon tea vinegar water or an online recipe. Smart prevention is not anti-medication. It means using every appropriate tool with care. Food can reduce metabolic pressure. Movement can help muscles use glucose. Sleep and stress management can support better daily control. Medication can protect organs and prevent dangerous complications when it is needed. The safest approach is cooperation, not competition between nutrition and medicine. Bring your readings. Question supplements and concerns to your healthcare appointments. Ask what changes are appropriate for your body, your kidney function, and your prescriptions. The goal is not to prove that food is stronger than medicine. The goal is to use food intelligently while keeping treatment safe, measured, and personal. Your next meal does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be better organized than the meal before it. Begin with a generous portion of non-starchy vegetables at a reliable source of protein. Include a modest serving of beans, lentils, or another quality carbohydrate, and finish with a little healthy fat. Then, when it is safe for you, stand up and move for 10 minutes. These choices may look small, but your metabolism responds to repetition. One balanced breakfast will not erase years of insulin resistance, just as one difficult meal will not destroy your progress. What matters is the pattern you create across weeks and months. Every time you replace juice with whole fruit, pair oatmeal with protein, choose lentils instead of refined starch, or walk after dinner, you send your body a calmer message. That message says glucose does not have to arrive all at once. It says your muscles are still useful, your habits still matter, and meaningful improvement is still possible after 60, 70, or 80. You are not too old to support your metabolism. You are not failing, because your body needs more help than it once did. Aging changes the system, but it does not remove your ability to influence it. Choose one action today. Add beans to lunch. Put vegetables on the plate before the bread. Replace sweetened yogurt with plain Greek yogurt and berries. Take a gentle walk after your largest meal. Keep the action simple enough that you can repeat it tomorrow. And please remember the safety rule that protects everything you are working toward. If you use insulin or glucose-lowering medication, monitor as directed, and discuss major dietary changes with your healthcare professional. Do not stop medication, ignore symptoms of low blood sugar, or use food as emergency treatment. Nutrition works best when it supports medical care, not when it competes with it. Tonight, look at your plate without judgment. Ask only one question. What can I add or rearrange to make this meal steadier? That small question can become a powerful habit that helps protect your independence.